Hey guys, what's going on? This is your old pal CHH. Yes, I got a haircut. I did. Let's just get it out of your system. How does it look? Does it look all right? I feel better. I don't look homeless anymore. I watched my last video, and I've had my hair long for like 4 years now, and I was like, it just looks so damaged and unhealthy. Let's start anew. Let's let's get a haircut. I like to have hair, but I don't like it to be short. So I was like, this is a good compromise. I'll do my Jessie from Part 2 haircut. So that's what we're going for now. My favorite final girl from the series. So guys, it's been a blast reviewing these movies, and it is finally time. We have made it to the last two, Freddy's Dead and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So let's start, of course, with Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare on 4K UHD. So if I could, just a few words about Freddy's Dead. It's one of those movies that, I don't really have to argue with people about whether I think it's good or not. Everybody's going to have their opinion about this film. But here's what I will say about Freddy's Dead. I do think you can push back on a few arguments. One of those arguments is that I can understand not liking the direction of Freddy's Dead and not liking the tone of it. But one thing you have to give credit to is that Freddy's Dead is not an aimless movie without a style. It's very, very much, they knew exactly what they were going for, and there was no hesitation about it. And the only thing I would ask the audience is, when you look at the series as a whole, is to take some sort of note of that. And you don't see that happen a lot, especially in higher number sequels of these series like that. That's pretty impressive. So I give Freddy's Dead a lot of credit for that. And here's another thing I will say about Freddy's Dead that is absolutely true. I understand, but before I saw anything from David Lynch, that I looked at this movie as just this goofy, ridiculous film with zero undertone of anything creepy. And I think a lot of people still may see the film that way. But when I got older and I watched Freddy's Dead, after experiencing David Lynch films, and especially Twin Peaks, I recall something Rachel Talalay said during the making of the movies on the Never Sleep Again documentary. She said, this movie is extremely influenced by Twin Peaks. Now, at first I was like, okay, really? That's interesting. But when I went back and really watched Freddy's Dead after watching the entirety of Twin Peaks, season 1, 2, and The Return, I see it. Now, on one hand, you can't replicate David Lynch. You just can't, because David Lynch is one of a kind. But I see what they were doing, and there are scenes that on the surface level definitely seem kind of goofy, and the way they're presented is very bright and bubbly. But I think that's where you can see there's almost this weird undertone of, what? This is bizarre and uncomfortable. Like the circus scene where they run into Roseanne and Tom Arnold. It is a bizarro scene. And then where I really felt that Twin Peaks feel is actually the flashback scenes where Lisa Zane's a little girl and she's with Robert, her dad, Freddy, and the wife. And those moments of Robert, seeing that his wife found what he's been doing down in the basement of the house. And it felt very Twin Peaks-like. So I can't look at Freddy's Dead the same way that I used to. I look at it in a better light. I look at it in a light that I enjoy the film. And I'm not going to say that's going to change people's minds per se, but I actually think Freddy's Dead is an interesting movie because it has a very clear vision for itself. Now, granted, it's not for everybody, maybe not even most people, but you have to give it credit there, I think. I think that's fair. It had a very clear vision of what it wanted to be like style-wise, and that's cool. And the film feels really big, too. It does not feel like a small film. It doesn't feel like a film that's petered out of a series where less money got put into it. They're like, just do one more and see if we can make our dividends back. No, they made a big movie with a healthy budget, and a movie made a lot of money. What do I think about the 4K? So obviously, with this release of Freddy's Dead, you're going to get the movie on 4K, and in that release, you're going to have not only the 3D version at the end, but the 2D version, which is nice. So one of the things that I definitely can say is that Freddy's Dead is a film that actually does benefit greatly from 4K. Talalay and the team made a gorgeous film, and some of the scenes that really stand out, in the beginning of the film where John Doe has his nightmare, and then all of a sudden he's in front of the bus after getting his ticket from Bob Shea. When you see Freddy driving the bus, I've never seen that scene look that robust and clean and pristine, and seeing Freddy driving it with the hat on was actually quite hysterical, and it looked fantastic. This film obviously has a mix of styles. It has a mix of super bright, pristine looking scenes like you would see from 4 and 2, as well as moody or dark stuff that you would see from 3 and 5. So it's interesting how visually Freddy's Dead is really a mix between all 4 sequels that come before it with 5, 4, 3, and 2. And that's cool because you get a blend of both looks of the film. And this film did shine on 4K so well. Some of the greatest scenes you would see, in my opinion, were like when they're driving the white bus and they're looping because Freddy has them on this, dream loop where they're trying to get out of, get out of town, but they can't. They're stuck there now. And when you see the van pulling up in front of the old building, that stuff looks great, absolutely great. And I'll even say this, I thought that there was actually a really nice bump in the quality when you see Freddy come out the bus after John Doe goes through the time portal, or the realm portal, if you will, and Freddy walks up to the silhouette of him and kind of touches it and it disappears. I was like, wow, that actually looks really good. And it's like the effects themselves got cleaned up really well in that. So I thought visually, on a 2D standpoint of the film, it looked really good. Now, let's talk about the 3D of Freddy's Dead. Now, obviously, I have these wrapped up because I've been using this set to watch the film, and obviously I used those glasses last night. The 3D, is it good? The answer is not really. As a matter of fact, when you first put them on, it's really just like sickening when you're sitting there watching it. But if you can manage to get past 3 minutes of it, once you see Lisa Zane walking through the main corridor of like that hell Dominion world, it starts to ease up and get better. But in terms of like watching the film and experiencing it that way, it's pretty crappy. It doesn't make it any better. But I will say this, experience it if you can. Obviously, if you're gonna do it, you have to be in a really, really dark room. You don't want any light protruding from the left or right, or any reflection from the back, because it's just gonna jar it even more. But if you have a really big TV and you can get pretty close up to it, just try it, But the benefit is this. I watched, obviously, this movie with the 2D version, and thankfully that looked really good. Here's the thing, too. I don't feel like the picture quality dropped when you watch it in the 2D version. It still looks really good, but I can't tell if maybe it does literally just a smidge. I'm pretty sure it's just some sort of mental anguish I have of saying, well, they didn't film that the same way, right? That's still filmed in 3D, so shouldn't it not look as good? You guys be the judge. You'll probably say, Christian, of course it doesn't. It looks exactly the same as the rest of the movie. But maybe I've just convinced myself it's just a touch not as good looking as everything previously. So overall, I'm pretty happy with Freddy's Dead. It is nice that they gave us 3D. This may be one of the only 4K releases, I think, that has, that kind of red and blue 3D glasses in it. So that's kind of funny, just in an anomaly sense. But overall, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10 in terms of picture quality. Maybe even a little bit more, like a 9.3, 9.4. I'm really happy with Freddy's Dead. And I think it'll be a highlight for a lot of people. And there may be certain scenes of this that you'll say, that's the best any Elm Street film has looked on 4K. That could be an argument. So I think most people will be happy with that right there. And of course, the great Alice Cooper is in that. Next up, the film that I have the most tumultuous relationship with, because it's interesting to me how most people see this as the best film, but that is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So I watched this film, and I gotta be honest, maybe it's just because I'm experiencing it on 4K for the first time. That may be it, but I fucking loved this movie this time. I really enjoyed it. I've been on record saying that I agree that the character of Nancy is so great and it's a great heroine, but at the same time, I was never really enamored with Heather's performance in the first film. I find Jessie and even Patricia Arquette to be better actresses in their respective films. But with that being said, I think one of the best performances of the series is also Heather in New Nightmare. I think this is her best performance. She is outstanding in New Nightmare, and I think it's no question that this is the best role she's ever done, playing herself in this movie. There are certain things that you still have to laugh at. You know they're not great. For instance, watching Bob Shea say, "Oh, Heather, come on, kids love her." And Wes Craven with his shit-eating grin the whole time he's doing his lines. It's so funny for a guy who knows a good actor or good actress when he sees it and knows how to direct so well. Wes Craven can't act his way out of a paper bag in this film, and it's so funny how bad he is to me. But with that being said, I actually really enjoyed this movie this time. Some of the scariest scenes are in this film with 2. I think the 2 scariest films in the series is hands down 2 and New Nightmare. And I'm actually really starting to grow more of an affinity for this film. I really am. And I have to say, one of the scariest scenes is when the casket gets lowered for the husband and the kid falls down, and you actually see New Nightmare Freddy dragging the kid down. The visual of seeing this guy in the ground dragging the kid is actually horrifying. And it's so well done. So I really can't say anything too bad at this point about New Nightmare. My complaints were that the first half dragged a little bit, and then once you get to a certain point, the movie just feels amazing. But with that being said, overall, visually, I gotta say New Nightmare looked fantastic. And I think this should be no surprise. I don't think anybody was expecting any of these to look bad, but it's just one of those things. I'm just giving you my honest thoughts as I'm going through the movies. New Nightmare, again, has the benefit of being a very bright movie, a lot of outdoor scenes, bright sunlight, that 4K, that HDR goes to work. And one of the scenes that I really enjoyed is the talk show sequence where you get to see Heather being bombarded by Robert dressed as Freddy. I think that's a great look for Freddy too. It looks like a mix between 4 and Freddy's Dead, the makeup, and I think I wish we could have gotten more of a look of that Freddy in the film. I wish they would have shown more of a close-up shot, but in 4K those scenes look great and that look of Freddy looks great. And I think Robert himself he does some of his best work in it too. I actually think some of Robert's best work is also in Freddy's Dead, but as non-makeup, that is. But here, the non-makeup Robert stuff is good too. I mean, this movie works. It works on a great scale, and I think I like this film at this point better than Scream. I gotta say. Now, some of the stuff visually that I was really looking forward to was actually at the end, where Heather and her son go into that death portal, that demon portal. I have a phobia of snakes, so I always anticipate that scene to a certain extent. And when you get into that portal, obviously there's some optical stuff where you see Heather falling through into it. And visually that stuff, you know, it looks good, but you know, those are modest. I shouldn't say modest, but those were effects of the time. I'm not saying that CGI makes them look better, but you know, unless you actually drop a motherfucker down, it's gonna look a certain kind of way, you know? So, but once we're in that world, once we're in that realm, if you will, man, that stuff looked phenomenal. And even the effects in that part of the movie look great because a lot of it were practical, where you're seeing Freddy's face stretch out and have that look going over the kid's face, and seeing the tongue wrap around Mom, and the visual of everything around it with the fire and the snakes. I think if you're a fan of this movie, you're going to be an even bigger fan of it on 4K. And I think if you're always kind of like, well, you know, let's see what's what with New Nightmare. It's never been my favorite. I prefer the Freddy that we know. I think you might come away with this one with a little bit of a different opinion. I know I did, and it bumped it up. I know that, you know, New Nightmare is a film that, you know, does a lot of new things. My only complaint with New Nightmare at this point is I wish it wouldn't have done the greatest hits. Redoing the scene with the girl dying, going on the ceiling. I actually would have just done everything different. This is a different entity. Let's let this Freddy do things in a different way. Although I also understand why they did that. This is Freddy taunting Heather, you better make the movie, or I'm gonna turn these movies into your actual life. I get it, but I wish we would have taken different steps in every direction. But that's my just opinion on that. But regardless, I'm actually gonna give New Nightmare a 9.5 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic. I think a lot of people are going to be happy with these. And again, I think the audio tracks are a great bump. Like I said, swap to the 2.0s when you're watching these, and then go back to the new audio tracks, and you're like, wow, okay, now I get how wide and big this sounds. So between the two, the one with the better picture quality for me is actually going to be New Nightmare. So we'll probably do one more video on this, and I'll kind of rank the releases and see which one is the best bang for your buck. But the last thing we got to talk about is the two new features, the Boiler Room Confessions, and I forget the name of the other one. They're both 8 minutes in length, and I'm just going to be blunt about it. Again, I'm so sorry if I unfortunately was in a position where I gave people false hope about better features, where I got duped by a fake insider that I answered a phone call on a live stream. Biggest mistake. One of my biggest mistakes. The other was a plastic chainsaw. But with that being said, I'm just going to be blunt about this with you guys. They're not great. They're new, and you're hearing Robert say things he said before. You're hearing Chuck Russell, and you're hearing, you know, the director of photography on New Nightmare, who's actually a nice guy. But one of them opens up with this. It's as basic as a question as this on this release. Why should people, you know, who already see these movies or have watched these movies, why should they see it in this new format? Because Freddy still works. Like, that's an answer. Like, that's what we're getting. Like, it was just the repeat of information, guys. They're not great. They are what they are. I appreciate the effort, I guess. But the real winner is actually all the old features that were done on these for the DVD set. Those features are still amazing, and I think when you watch those, you'll be like, holy shit, they're showing all kinds of stuff. David Miller's showing the Baby Freddy mechanics and showing the actual Baby Freddy from the movie behind him, and wow, John Carl Buechler's going into all this stuff. The old features on these are the real home runs because they were that good back then, and they still are great features. So that's the real home run, is the old original features, guys. So, like I said, we'll do one more video to recap everything, and I'll kind of rate the 4Ks, and that I'm going to have to reprocess it. I might rewatch some bits and pieces here, but yeah, between the two, I am going to give the edge to New Nightmare. I think it's a great 4K. They both are, but man, this film, it looks like such a cinematic movie. So there you have it, guys. That's my thoughts on those two. Please let me know what you guys think about these movies down below. God bless you guys, and I'll talk to y'all very soon. Bye.
Giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.